So my name's Jodi Proudlock.
Oh,
Currently
sorry,
with
and make sure you talk
Nice
into
and
the
close.
microphone.
So I'm currently Strategy and Operations Manager at Swab Attorneys. That role encompasses a number of things, including HR, processes, procedures, continuous improvement, risk, as well as day-to-day operations. My background and how I came to be at Swab in this role, in 1994 I started as a junior legal secretary, and as a secretary you pick up things along the way, working with different partners in different areas of law. I worked across a number of areas of law, and in '97 came to work with a managing partner who was quite passionate about continuous improvement and best practice. In his role, he wanted to move more back into a fee-earning capacity, and so I took on part of the law firm management that he was doing. So my skills moved away from the secretarial skill base and into a management skill base. I then studied my Masters of Business Administration and stayed in the legal profession. But because I'd worked as a secretary and then as a more senior leader within the firm, I worked through to become general manager of that firm, moved on to a couple of other firms as well in similar roles. I feel like I have insight from what it's like on the floor, doing the doing. I've worked with the lawyers to see their frustrations, to hear their frustrations. I've heard it from the secretaries. And in fact, going back to my induction, I was very shy, didn't like to ask questions, and nobody back then told you how to do anything. There weren't policies and procedures. It was just in and get going. But because I was shy, I didn't ask questions. I had to go and find ways to do things myself. So I made it my passion, I suppose, to make sure that the next person wouldn't go through the same thing. So 23 years later, I'm still documenting policies and procedures and making sure that there's better ways for doing things. What I learnt in that 23 years, what I have learned in that 23 years, is that that's all well and good for new people coming into the firm, but the bigger benefit is to the clients. If we can provide quality, and I know the word quality is thrown around a lot, but if we can provide, let's say, best practice legal advice, legal service, that should be a given when you go to a law firm. You would hope that it's like when you go to a doctor or a specialist. You know, you don't question the advice. You shouldn't have to. But if we can do it in a standard way, in a way that is easy for them to digest, then they're going to keep coming back. And, you know, ultimately, as in the business of law, that's what you want. So I've been documenting policies and procedures and then reviewing them and looking for ways to continuously improve on those. So the benefits, obviously, for the juniors coming in, they know what's expected of them, how to do it, how to service the clients. The clients have a better experience in the firm. And then at the firm level, there's a risk mitigation element, you know, to continuous improvement and all of that. So I'm quite passionate about all of those things. My title, Strategy and Operations, covers all of that because it doesn't fit nicely and neatly into one thing. I have the HR remit as well, and I firmly believe that HR need to be across all of these issues to understand the human elements that go into running a firm, servicing clients, working with, with peers and the like. So that's me.
Okay, thank you. You were talking about best practice. How do you think you should be measuring, and how do you measure best practice within a law firm?
So we are actually certified to Law 9000, which is industry standards that set out a range of criteria as to how to achieve certification. So it covers client service, delivery of services, how you induct your staff, how they apply for leave. It covers everything. And so we have to have a policy and a procedure that sets out those things. And then they come in and audit us to make sure that we are doing what we say we're doing. We audit ourselves as well to keep ourselves in check. Where often things go well and we celebrate those successes. When things don't go well or we haven't complied with our own procedures, policies, whatever it might be, we use that as an opportunity for improvement. We have a committee that gets together and says, okay, well, what's the root cause of this problem, whatever the problem might have been, and how are we going to fix it? And off we go again. So, yeah.
Now, you've worked in a number of law firms over a number of years. You will have seen a few changes in your time. What is your experience about managing that change, and has it varied from firm to firm, from partner to partner, from junior lawyer to junior lawyer?
Hour by hour.
Hour by hour.
Yes, it varies a lot. When I first started, we were just introducing the fax machine. So we've come a long way since the fax machine. The pace of change has certainly hastened. The pace of change is just incredible at the moment, and it's obviously not slowing down. Because my background and the firms that I've been with have had a continuous improvement culture, we're used to change. And so I feel that I've been fortunate to work in organisations that, by and large, have adopted change quickly or readily. Those that haven't, and there's certainly some partners in every organisation that aren't into it, maybe they're at the end of their career and there's no need for them to change. The way that they do things works. But those people aside, where I've seen success and the adoption of change work really well is when we've explored and had a bit of a journey around, well, why are we changing? What's the need for change? If it's change for change's sake, it's never successful. If it's change because there's a need, it's solving a problem, then it's been, my experience is it's been successful. Where it's most successful is where it's client-driven, because you have to change. So the need, the awareness, the desire is already there. And then it's just a matter of, well, what's the process? What is it that we need to do differently? And sometimes you need to revisit, the desire, or hang on, why are we doing this again? I've had a lot of success where we've invited clients in to tell us what should we be doing. Managers in law firms can tell partners till we're blue in the face, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. Yes, okay. When a client comes in and says it, that's a good thing. So, hearing from the external marketplace as to what's needed is vital.
So what are the main drivers of change at the moment? Clients or technology or the bottom line figure in the balance sheet of a law firm? Or what do you see as the drivers of change?
Ultimately, it's clients. We actually are quite ahead of the game when it comes to technology. We have a lot of technology in place to facilitate more efficient work practices. However, getting the lawyers to use the technology is a bit tricky when there's no need. The way that they did it before works. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace, or actually it's more than noise, it's fact, in relation to innovation and irrelevance of law firms, artificial intelligence, all of this stuff. The role of the lawyer won't exist in a number of years, whatever that might be, and obviously depending on the area of law as well. That's scaring some people. It's scaring some people into change, and then it's scaring them into talking to their clients, and then they realise, okay, we need to change.
Can we talk a little bit about paper or no paper? I think you've got some views on that.
I certainly do. Yeah. We're trying really hard to reduce the paper, and we've come to a point in our firm that rather than talking about it as an issue around paper, reducing paper, we've flipped it a little and called it, or we're calling it going digital, to make the focus on what we are going to do, not what we're going to take away from you. Because the psychology of change is if you take something away, people feel that they can't do whatever it is they need to do. So going digital means a heavier reliance on the technology that we actually already have. Obviously, it means taking away the paper. The only way to do it is if the technology that is in place meets their need. They can do what they need to do quickly, efficiently, easily, and they perceive that that it's the same, if not better, experience than their paper file the old way. I did try to just stop ordering paper, reduce the paper order to see what happened, and I quickly found what the pain points were, and we're in the process of exploring what those pain points are to see if we can find an alternative.
What were those pain points?
It's quicker and easier for me, Jodi, to find what I need to find in my file. And that was quite telling, because we do have a document management system that's best practice, but a couple of users didn't know how to use it, or they hadn't set it up correctly. So, you know, unless I'd taken the paper away, they might have just happily gone on and continued doing what they were doing forevermore. So, yeah, probably had to do it the way that we did to find out what the real issue was. But
were there any withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah, there were. Because in this case, and a number of practitioners have been practising for, 30 years with paper. To try and take it away is really hard. But for those people, it'll just take a little bit longer, a bit more training, making sure that they actually have what they need, and then off they go.
And what were the benefits that you saw as a result of going digital?
A number of benefits, quite aside from the flexible working, where you can just up and go somewhere else, log in and continue working on the matter that you're working on. Multiple people can do that too now, whereas in the past one person took the file home, that was that, nobody else could work on it. Aside from that benefit, it actually is faster to be able to find things electronically. There's a cost reduction in paper, printer usage, toners, all of that sort of thing. Filing, the time that it takes for secretaries to file.
Storage.
And risk, protection of IP.
Everything, you name it. And until we pointed out all of those little things, people started to slowly say, yes, okay, I see the point. Law firms are trying to do more with less. Legal secretaries are run off their feet trying to keep up to the workload. If they're spending 3 hours a day filing the paper versus 1 hour a day or half an hour a day, they can be getting onto servicing the client's needs. And working in a professional service industry where the client should be, at the forefront of what we do, that's a huge benefit. You have more time to service your client. And we're starting to see that.
Now, you have an HR role.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit about your firm's diversity program and how that's been approached?
It's interesting at our firm. There was no committee that sat down and said, right, we will discuss diversity. We need to have quotas in place. It's happened naturally in our firm. The firm, I think, has always just hired the best person for the job, regardless of any factor. And we're quite proud of that. Coming into the firm, it's noticeable that there's an acceptance. We're not a homogenous group. We're all different in numerous ways, but it's not because of any mandated quota. We adopted the diversity charter this year, and that was just another natural progression for us. So our adoption of diversity and our approach to diversity is organic, and I think we actually attract people who are open-minded and therefore want to work in a firm, such as ours because of that.
Okay. Jodi?
Yeah, just on change again, particularly when you're sort of introducing technology, how do you overcome the idea that we roll out the technology, there's a big change management exercise at that point, but then staff come and go. In my experience, when you end up with a bunch of staff who are using perhaps 10% of the functionality, and everyone's developed their own little native practices. And what's your advice to firms on how they can make sure that doesn't happen and that you have continuous, consistent usage?
We have everything documented, and through our continuous improvement audits, we check, are we doing what we say we're doing? And if we're not, is it because we haven't trained people? Are they new? Have we not given them what they need? Or is it because the process no longer, or the documentation no longer reflects current practice? And then we set about updating it that way. So we have a formal induction program. We don't hand out paper induction files or folders. We have an electronic induction program that links all of the policies and procedures, or links the new person to our intranet. So if a procedure was updated a week ago, they will have access to the most current policy or procedure, as opposed to a standard induction manual that is out of date the moment it's printed. And we keep those things live and updated. So that's a huge benefit of the Law 9000 accreditation. It forces us to stay on top of things. We also make sure that, and we're working towards doing this a bit better, but we have administration guides for all of the secretarial staff, because while there's standard ways of doing things across the firm, there's different ways of doing things in property and litigation, obviously, different areas of law. And so we have guides that sort of say, if you're working in this area, these are the things that are slightly different to the way that the firm as a whole does them. And we have secretary meetings where we just have we put some sandwiches on and we say, right, these are the things we want to talk about. What's worrying you? What's holding you up? What can we do better?
And do you find that using the network of legal secretaries, for example, is a good way to really get the engine running smoothly?
Absolutely. They know. Often it's tempting to hear a problem and want to implement a solution straight away, but ask a legal secretary and they'll tell you what they think the solution is, and 9 times out of 10, they're on the mark, and it gives you a bit more of an insight as to what the actual problem is that you need to address. A big part of my day is asking myself, am I solving the right problem? There's a temptation to just head towards the squeaky wheel or the issue that you think is at hand, but hang on, are we solving the right problem? Yeah, the secretaries often know the answers.
Have you noticed any issues to do with stress and managing stress for those who are caught up in the changes that are taking place? For example, the more senior lawyers. Do you find that they are handling the change as they should, better than they should, or do you feel as though there are some issues that need to be dealt with to try and assist them through what might be a difficult process?
Yeah, there's definitely issues that need to be dealt with. Again, having a collegiate environment where it's okay to talk about the struggles you're having. We have an open door policy, which I'm sure everybody says they do, but we live it. So different people show stress in different ways. Some people retreat. Some people become, troublesome. Regardless of how that stress manifests, we'll always try and make sure that we address it in some way. So it might be having a conversation. It might be inviting feedback. We go a long way to try and make sure that we assist those. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach, unfortunately. And all you can do is do your best. We're very big on Are You OK Day, Mental Health Month. And in fact, October is Mental Health Month, but we have a program throughout the entire year to make sure that we keep the conversation going, such that if there is an issue, people know that it's okay to speak up, and that if somebody comes and asks you, are you okay, it's not left field. Where did that come from? Why are you doing that?
You don't want to stress them out.
You don't want to stress them out. Why? What do you think? What do you? So we try and handle it in a number of different ways. We did put on a program earlier this year, Thrive, and that was an 8-week program, 1 hour a week, where we had some people come in and talk to us and guide us through some meditation. And in my experience in law firms, that would have been 20 years ago. absolutely non-existent. And if anybody suggested it, it would have been, oh gosh, this is a little bit crazy. And I must admit, I was a bit sceptical, a bit touchy-feely HR kind of thing. We had, the first session was for 28 and we had to rerun it for another 28, and they were lawyers, which was just wonderful in my eyes because they needed it. And that's not the approach that's going to work for everybody. That's not the solution that's going to work for everybody. But I was really heartened by the fact that 40-something people turned up, nearly 50 people turned up week in, week out to take some time for themselves.
Yeah, just back to the drivers of change just briefly. How do you encourage lawyers to sort of put their hand up when they're finding things that aren't working for them? You know, in terms of where you're spotting where to target on things to improve. You know, some people will just sort of suffer in silence and never really say anything and perhaps just complain in the background. But do you have a way of encouraging people to speak up and say, look, if something's not working, talk to us, or if it could be done better, talk to us?
Again, different things work for different people. So we come at it from a few different angles. One of them is on our intranet we have a site where they can suggest an improvement. The audit system, we're very, and the Law 9000 system, we're very particular in our language to make sure that people know that we're auditing the process, not the person. And if the process needs changing, there's an opportunity for us to hook back in with that person, talk about where it's gone wrong. And if you listen in the right way, that you find opportunities that way. And that's safe. That's a safe environment where people can say something's not working for me and not be attacked. You know, you stuffed that up or whatever it might be. So we do it that way. And then the third way is just by being present. We try, you know, I try and walk around as much as I can. Hi, how you going? What's happening? And often the first thing that people tell you is the biggest issue of their moment or their day. So you find out that way as well. And I don't just leave it at that. I'll try and say, okay, well, what can we do about that? And most people, if you ask them, you empower them with the ability to give the solution, there's your solution, you know. The more you do that, it creates a culture of continuous improvement and understanding that the firm is willing, you know, to listen and to improve.